There is one verse in the Bible that most pastors skip right over, not because it's hard to find, but because it sounds almost too simple, too ordinary. If you've ever watched God bless everyone around you while your own life stayed painfully unchanged, if you've ever prayed the same prayer for years and wondered if anyone was listening, if you've ever smiled at someone else's breakthrough while quietly breaking inside, stay right here, because the next few minutes might change the way you see your entire life. But first, let me tell you something that might actually surprise you. This verse wasn't given to a king. It wasn't spoken to a great warrior or a powerful prophet. It was given to a woman with nothing left. No husband, no money, no future she could see. She wasn't planning for a future anymore. She was preparing for an ending. If that doesn't tell you something powerful about how God's favor really works, nothing will. Her name was the widow of Zarephath, and on paper, this woman had everything working against her. She was a widow in a culture where widows had no protection. She was a foreigner, outside the people of Israel entirely. She was gathering sticks to make one final meal for herself and her son. One last meal, and she was prepared to die. She should have been invisible to God. Instead, God sent Elijah directly to her door. 1 Kings 17, verse 9. Go at once to Zarephath of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. God directed him to her on purpose. Number 1. God's favor finds exhausted people. The widow wasn't praying for a miracle. She wasn't fasting. She wasn't seeking God's face. She was just gathering sticks, quietly giving up. And favor found her anyway. 1 Kings 17, verse 12. As surely as the Lord your God lives, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. That is not a woman full of faith. That is a woman at the end of her rope. Some people watching this are exhausted, not rebellious, not faithless, just tired. And that is exactly the kind of person God moves toward. Here's the test. You don't have to be in the right posture for God's favor to move. You just have to still be here. Number 2, God's favor often arrives disguised as an inconvenient request. Elijah walks up and asks her for water. Fine. Then he asks her for bread, and she says, I have almost nothing. This is my last handful of flour. And Elijah says, give to me first. 1 Kings 17, verse 13. Don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have. Don't be afraid, but first give to me. That doesn't sound like blessing. It sounds like pressure. Sometimes the thing that unlocks the miracle feels irresponsible in the moment. But this is how God's favor moves. It often asks something of you right before it opens everything for you. Here's the test. The moment that feels like the most to give is usually the moment right before God moves. Number 3, God's favor multiplies what you thought was running out. She obeyed, and the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry. Day after day after day. 1 Kings 17, verse 16. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. Not because she was wealthy, not because she had earned it, because she stepped forward in the moment it made the least sense. Fear says, protect what's left. Faith says, trust God with it. Here's the test. What in your life feels like it's almost gone? Because that might be exactly where God is about to multiply. Number 4, God's favor reaches people who feel outside of it. She wasn't an Israelite. She wasn't inside the covenant. She wasn't in the right group. And yet God specifically said to Elijah, go to her, not to a temple, not to a priest, to a widow who had nothing. She wasn't even supposed to be part of the story. And yet God wrote her into it anyway. Luke 4, verse 26. Yet Elijah was not sent to any of them, but to a widow in Zarephath in the region of Sidon. Jesus himself said this, in front of a crowd who thought they were the chosen ones. God's favor has never been limited to the people who look the most qualified. Here's the test. If you have ever felt like God's favor was for someone else, someone more qualified, more faithful, more put together, this story was written for you. Number 5. God's favor doesn't just sustain you, it restores what you've lost. Later in the story, her son gets sick and dies, and she cries out to Elijah, "Did you come here to remind me of my sin?" And Elijah brings him back. 1 Kings 17, verse 22. The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. God didn't just refill her jar. He gave breath back to what she thought was gone forever. God's favor isn't just provision, it's restoration. It doesn't just keep you going. It brings back what you thought was gone forever. Here's the test. What have you stopped believing God can restore? Because God's favor has no expiration date on what it can recover. So here's what 1 Kings 17 is actually saying to you today. God's favor is not reserved for the polished. It is not earned by the strong. It is not waiting for you to have more faith, more consistency, more of anything. It moved toward a foreign widow with her last handful of flour. It will move toward you. The secret was never about being the right person. The secret was never a formula or a level of faith you haven't reached yet. The secret is this. God's favor moves towards surrender, not perfection, not performance, just the quiet, honest moment where you say, "This is all I have," and you offer it anyway. So maybe this video found you for a reason. Maybe you're not at the end. Maybe you're standing at the exact place where God begins. And just like that widow, the fact that you're still here, still watching until the end, still holding on, that tells me your jar is not empty. It just means you might need to offer what's left, because the miracle doesn't come before the step, it comes after. If something in this story felt like it was written specifically for you today, I want you to do one thing, just one. If you're still here after everything you've survived, drop the words "still pouring" in the comments below. That's all, just that, because somewhere right now, someone is going to scroll through those comments feeling like they have nothing left to give. And they are going to see those words over and over again. And they are going to remember the jar didn't run out. So type it for yourself and type it for them. Still pouring.